here, I am going to bust out one of my old builds. It's a Red Wagon with a motor. Therefore, it is a motorized Red Wagon, which equals a go-kart. And some people do call it a Mario Kart. I can see that. You know, it kind of does look like one. So this build took place in like 05. I know I finished it in 06, and I put it in the storage late of 06. It's 2019 now, so roughly 13-ish years it's been sitting around. In that time frame, I have like transported it from place to place, and I have stole some parts off of it, but I have not started it, I have not drove it, it has not been running. And that's the idea of this video here. I want to dig it out, get it to run, take it for a rip, and see what I want to do with it. I'm trying to get this garage cleaned up, it's in my way, I need to figure this out. It's, do I keep it? Do I scrap it? Do I throw it in the garbage? Do I fix it and drive it? You know? I gotta do something, so. Dig it out, get the dust blowing off of it, take it for a rip, see what we get. And I also figured I'd bring you guys in, show you one of my builds. I think it's neat. I do know there was issues with the steering when I made it. It was my learning curve on steering geometry. But we'll see how bad it really is. Go-kart's underneath my truck. Who stores them there? I do. Whoa. Whoops. That should be enough room. Yeah. Ugh. Oh. Flat tires. I got flat tires. I built most of this stuff from scratch, like the exhaust. You can unbolt both tail pieces. All 6 pipes actually work. You can unbolt it. The header pipe was like a box fan framework. It needs all redone. I actually have a cracked weld somewhere, but it's neck down, so that's probably hindering some performance. Gas tank was a fire extinguisher. I modified it, built the frame, built the bumpers. The motors, the Briggs & Stratton animal engine, they come factory with the slide carb. I put a K&N air filter kit on there. Fuel pumps mounted back in there with the pulse kit going up to the side. Steering wheel, I built the steering wheel, it's a chain wheel. When I built this, I didn't know nothing about steering angles. Well, after building it, I learned about caster and that. So, thing don't handle real great, and that's a thing that if I keep this, I'm going to cut it apart and modify it and change all this stuff. But by the time it's done, I might as well just build a new one from scratch. But it does have steering, it's got a gas pedal, got a brake pedal, it's got a mechanical brake in the back, inch axle, live axle in the rear, go-kart hubs, rims, tires in the rear, go-kart hubs, rims, tires in the front, like racing stuff, all loom. Welded all the tie rods, that was a big mistake. So if I keep it around, that's one of the first things I'll change is that, and I'll put the correct caster into it. All these frame pieces were single pieces of metal. I'd definitely do it out of one piece and maybe like double it up, make it thicker instead of 3/16 because that's probably not that strong. But it was a fun build back then. Like I said, first one's always a prototype. I would definitely change a lot of things. But you can tell with all the dust on this thing, it's just been sitting around. So I'll probably go ahead and strip everything down off of here. Just give it a good clean real quick. I'd go and get a bucket of hot water, so wipe everything down. Then I'll go through, clean the carburetor, I'll clean the air filter, put a new plug in there, make sure the fuel pump works, maybe wash it out somehow, see how you do that. Wash the gas tank out, put a new fuel filter in the line, put new line on, because I know I stole the line. Stole the bolts out of the steering. Make sure the steering connects correctly and doesn't break, because I think I kept breaking cotter peas in there when I was trying to drive it that 10 minutes. I think I went through like 3 of them. Make sure the chain's good, maybe oil it up, and then go from there. So that's the main idea of this thing. Well, since this motor sat around most of its life, dirty carburetor is not really an issue, but it is an issue that there was old gas in there that's dried up. So I'm gonna basically tear the carburetor cart did I say that? Whatever. Apart just to get the old gas residue cleaned out of it and kind of give it a once over. Wow, they put Loctite on these things. That's insane. It's not bad at all. Well, you figure the gas from like 2005 is way better than the crap we got today. Really nothing in there. And I know, if you're ever working on a carburetor, never set it on the float or jets. Either put the bowl back on, or I'll set it upside down like this. But I'll never set it on here. You do not want to bend your float. There's actually a float level that you're supposed to check. I'm not going to do that on here since this carburetor should be fine. But just forewarn you, don't ever set it like that without at least throwing the bowl back on there. Oh God, I can't get over this sickness. Uh-oh. I guess you never send the wife to get your carburetor cleaner. Oh well, it'll work. It's the thought that matters. Make sure you get the jets real good. And this is what really cleans the jets out. Food for thought. When you're flopping your carburetor around and you don't have your float removed, make sure you don't lose a little pin out there, because then your float will fall out, and then there's that plunger in there off that tab of the I guess float. That can fall off and get lost too. Make sure your air is not oily or having condensation coming out of it either. And then don't beat the air chuck off any machine surfaces inside if you're shoving it down in there, so nothing gets destroyed or marked up. But there it is. That's clean enough for me. And guys, that is how not to clean your K&N air filter. And that's how you still do not clean a K&N air filter. But in a time of need, that will work indeed. 13-year-old gaskets, good to go. So all I'm trying to do is make sure the carburetor bore and the intake bore line up. So basically 2 circles together, not off center from each other. I'm just reaching in with my finger and kind of feeling around. Alright, tight enough. Gas line, gas filter. Need some heat. That's all it takes. Zip tie shoved back in there. This is gonna be really ghetto. Since I'm using a black zip tie, I'm still gonna gain horsepower out of this. Won't be much. It'll be just enough. That'll work. Like a champ. It's not touching the exhaust. Yeah, I should have a grommet on there. That's the pulse line. That goes to the motor to make the fuel pump actually work. This is the outline. Look at that gas line. That stuff's impressive. Good as new. Yep. Alright, last thing I need to do is hook the steering up. I'm just going to rig it for now. A makeshift cotter key. So what happened on that first test was, as soon as those rear tires started to spin, it just chucked the chain right off the sprocket. I did it twice. The first time on camera, and then the second time I did it off camera, same thing. So I went ahead, I removed the rear sprocket, which this sprocket is a split sprocket design, which is an awesome setup. Basically, I don't have to remove the axle to pull the sprocket off. But what I want to do to this is I want to make like some chain keepers. Basically a piece of plate steel that will go on the outside and a piece of plate steel that will go on the inside. And basically the chain will have to ride in the sprocket no matter what. So what I went ahead and already did off camera is I made basically the chain keepers. And all I did was I took a piece of 14 gauge plate, laid the sprockets out on there like it was, circled the inside, put the bolt hole pattern in there, then took a roller, came like a ½ inch away and just put a few little dots around there so I had an idea how big to go. Then took the plasma cutter, I drilled a hole in the center, and cut the outside out and then cut the inside out. I did that twice. Then I labeled them B and B and A and A. Then stuck them in the shear and just cut them in half. Now the final thing I got to do is drill all the holes on all these. Bam! How soon do I hit my hand? Oh yeah. The cart up on the trusty jack stand here, and I went ahead and installed both chain keepers with the sprocket and the chain on. It's all basically bolted up, ready to go. You can see the washers way down in there, and they're on both sides of the sprocket, basically spacing out these chain keepers so this overall thickness of the chain has enough play inside there. I think it'll work. Tires are way too sticky.
actually pulled blacktop up out of the ground, or up out of the asphalt.
Go ahead, fire this thing up and just take it for a lap to see what I should do with it. So there it is, the wagon test. Can't say it wasn't fun, but it was a wild ride. It'd be way funner if I could go faster for a longer period of time, but this thing can't handle fast. It can't even handle itself right now. The steering is pretty bad on it. I did drive it for longer than I put on camera, and I really went over everything on this thing. And I know what I'm going to do with it now. I'm going to go ahead and pull the motor off, put it on my one shelf of motors I have in my other garage, drain the gas out of the entire system, and then I'm going to take this cart and like hang it up on a wall somewhere. I have 12-foot ceilings in here, so there's plenty of dead space up there, and I'll hang it up out of my way. But another thing I'm willing to do, if there's enough like interest on it, there is some money tied up in parts on this thing. I'll be willing to build version number 2. So if you guys want to see that, leave a comment down there in the comments saying, hey, build Mario Kart Red Wagon, whatever, version number 2, and I'll get on it sometime. I don't know when, but sometime. But other than that, I want to thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe for more stuff like this, or my mower videos, or fabrication stuff. Yeah. And I forget what I was saying, so thanks for watching, and have a good one.